jumping right into another video because I only have so much time and NBA news just keeps on happening. To be clear, NBA news happening is good for me. That gives me stuff to talk about. But wow, didn't see this one coming today. Adrian Griffin fired after 43 games. Now, like, I can't say I'm necessarily like surprised. I know I just said I didn't see this coming. I didn't think it was gonna happen. But like logically, like I understand why it happened. So it's not too often in the NBA when you're the second seed or whatever, and you're 30-13 entering Tuesday. That's when I'm recording this, is Tuesday, and you fire your coach. But let's not waste time talking about like too many statistics or anything. Let's talk about this from a coach's perspective, since that's the perspective that I have with this, right? So he's a first-time head coach, right? Coming into a very established veteran team. Damian Lillard, Giannis, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, right? Like Bobby Portis. These are true like NBA like vets and everything that have an established way of doing things. There's a strong personality that comes with star players like that. And a lot of times a first-year head coach doesn't quite have the voice necessary to get that done. You can say whatever you want about his leadership. I don't know Adrian Griffin. I've never been in the same room as him. Like, I've never been on a staff with him before or anything. And so I can't speak to his leadership abilities and everything, but the Bucks took a risk by hiring Griffin at the beginning of the season because they didn't have Lillard yet, but they still had a very established veteran group and everything, right? And so it was, okay, like we're bringing in a new attitude because Coach Bud wasn't very good at adjusting and everything, even though he had just won a championship. It was more so based off talent and everything, I would tend to say. And so you brought in a fresh face and everything, a fresh voice. It was risky to bring him in when there was some veteran options, and now it kind of started to bite you in the butt. All right, we'll take a look at some numbers, though. Like, it's nice, actually, that ESPN put these here because these are some of the ones I was going to talk about. Like, defensive efficiency, they fall into, like, 22nd. Points per direct pick, that's probably a Drew Holiday stat more so. And then points per direct drive, again, kind of a Drew Holiday thing. So that's been the talking point this year, right? Is that the defense hasn't been as good. It started out a lot more aggressive than they're used to, when normally they kind of just like to play back in the drop coverage and let Brook Lopez and Giannis kind of just clean things up. If teams want to shoot all the mid-range shots in the world, they let that happen, right? That's what they like to do. They went to Coach Griffin, said, hey, we kind of would like to go back to playing that way. Can we do that? He said yes, right? Like, what is he going to say? No in that situation? Of course not, right? And then around the same time, you have Terry Stotts not too long into things being like, I can't stand being here. Terry Stotts is a very, like, professional coach. He's been there for a long time, or in the league for a long time. Clearly, he didn't like how things were being run or whatever with the first-year head coach, and that insubordination is something that you just can't have on a staff. And so Terry Stotts probably did the right thing in removing himself from the situation. So that probably already led to a little bit of tension because Terry Stotts was supposed to be that more veteran voice. And you have all these veterans and like a younger person in the coaching carousel, then the younger guy's supposed to be in charge of everyone else. That's a very tough thing to manage. I want to direct some attention, though, to the offense a little bit. Like, yes, the Bucks are winning basketball games, right? Like, that's awesome. They're the second seed, but we all know they're not playing, like, well still. Like, we watch them, and we're like, it's just not quite right. I'm, like, the defense is, like, something, right? Obviously, Drew Holiday isn't there anymore. That's a whole thing. Like, we get it. Damian Lillard isn't as good as Drew Holiday. They still have a ton of good defensive players on this team. So, like, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is. And that's probably, not going to lie, kind of an intensity thing, I'm willing to bet. But anyway, the offense. I don't think the offense has been like as like cohesive as like we all think it should be. And it's more so like we're missing like some basic things going on. Like, why doesn't Giannis screen for Dame more? This is such a, like, it's such a basic thing, right? That seems like such a, like a low level basketball thing to say, but it doesn't happen. We were all curious, like, what does that look like? Like, the pick and roll is such an unstoppable thing in basketball. It's so hard to defend. Like, a lot of like playoff basketball comes down to pick and roll and everything. What does it look like Dame and Giannis, right? Like Dame and Lopez and stuff, right? Like things like that. And it just doesn't really happen. I don't really know what's going on with their offense. And they're not playing that offense. They put up plenty of points and everything, but like it still doesn't feel like it was being optimized. So I don't think Adrian Griffin was getting like a high level of basketball play from either end. So what do you do to address this, right? So this is an odd situation, right? Like obviously Joe Prunty's coming back in. I think this is his third time becoming the interim head coach here. I could be wrong. Maybe. I don't remember. It's at least twice. I don't know if it's 3 times or not, but that's fine. It sounds like Doc Rivers is coming in though pretty quickly. At the time of recording this, it seems like they're already starting to work on a deal and everything. So Doc Rivers is coming in. Now that's kind of an interesting move, right? Like when you bring in a guy from like within the organization. I saw Richard Jefferson talking about this on ESPN, where they were like, when we brought Ty Lue up, he was the associate head coach. The verbiage is there. The relationship with the players is still there, right? Like the way you're communicating with players remains the same. Now you're bringing in an outside person, a la Quinn Snyder with the Hawks last year. That's a hard thing to do when like there's not much practice time at this point of the season, if at all. Like there's some walkthroughs in the hotels and stuff, right? And you have a practice here or there and stuff like that. But you need that offseason to establish like these routines, these play styles and stuff. And a lot of these NBA dudes can pick up play styles like whenever, but like building that cohesiveness and building like those key principles that you're trying to build in, that takes a lot of time. And so bringing in a new voice like that, there's going to be a learning curve. And that's why they want the established veteran voice, right? Doc Rivers has done this before. People know Doc Rivers does this kind of stuff, right? Like you can say what you want about like his playoff performance, and he has a similar problem to Bud where his adjustments don't necessarily take place in the playoffs, which I go back and forth like with that stuff. Yes, you have to be able to adjust. I often think people adjust too quickly or too much. So that's a thing in itself that I don't need to touch right now. But you're bringing in a voice that's going to command authority and stuff. He's as senior of a coach as there are senior of players, right? So he's going to come in. He's going to be a new voice. You would like to think that new voice kind of kickstarts the team a little bit. And Doc Rivers is known as a very no-nonsense guy, and there's a lot of no-nonsense guys on this team that ideally gels well. And the main thing is, are you going to be able to communicate and teach well enough, which Doc Rivers historically does pretty well. He gets his team to buy into his game plans. And then also, can you get the effort out of them that I feel like the Bucks have kind of been lacking? I feel like they've just kind of been like, yeah, we're really talented. We're the Bucks. We have Dame and Giannis and some good role players and stuff, and we'll outwork you like just enough to win the games. Can we get them to like foot on the ground, be like Golden State Warriors were like a couple of years ago, where those guys didn't even have to play a lot of fourth quarters because they just went and got their job done, right? And I think that's what they're trying to see out of this team. As for Adrian Griffin, right, I mean, obviously the team was winning games, and that's what matters at the end of the day, but I'm sure that the organization looked at this and said, hey, maybe this guy's going to be a good head coach one day, and that's why we did it, but we just don't have time to, like, mess around with that right now. We just don't. We need someone that can go in and get it done right now, and this is the guy that's going to do it, most likely, in Doc Rivers, and so it's unfortunate that this happened. I mean, that's just got to be such a blow to his confidence in Adrian Griffin, at least. Like, that's just got to suck, right? Especially if maybe you didn't completely see it coming, so I don't know. I just have to imagine that's pretty hard. But you have to hope that this sparks the team a little bit and gets them motivated and everything. Like, you like to think that those players maybe take it a little bit personally upon themselves. Be like, man, we kind of got this guy fired because we couldn't get it together as well or something, right? Like, that's what I would do if I was the player in that situation, right? But who knows? At the end of the day, the Bucks have a lot of pros, so hopefully they get it figured out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is an odd one. I have to imagine Griffin had one of the best records ever to get fired at least in the modern era. So I can't imagine who else it would be. Maybe like a David Blatt or something like that. I don't know. Maybe like a Kenny Atkinson. Didn't he step down though? I don't even know. But anyway. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.